and it's easy to do, which is another great thing for you guys to hopefully do. The thing that I want to promote to you guys, for all of you here that are at this and any of them that aren't that hear about it, is that I want to guarantee that you guys will make the minimum amount on your school function for your first one that you do. So you schedule 3 functions between now and the end of next school year. So that's like 1 before this school year ends, and then 2 more next school year at the minimum. 1 before Christmas, 1 after Christmas is what I suggest, and I will guarantee that you make $120 on your first function. So now it's not only free, I'm giving you $120 just to have a function for your school. And if you want to do the PTA meeting, you let us know, and we'll make sure the party rooms are available and set up for you. But it's really a great function. Also, more things that we do for you guys. I'm sure you guys have seen the Thursday folder stuff that we put out. We give you guys money, and all you have to do is insert things into the Thursday folder that you guys are doing already. And I know that a lot of times the checks aren't that big to each individual school, but last year I ran the numbers on how much we gave back to PTAs, and it was thousands of dollars. It was, I think, almost 5,000. I think it was for something we ended up giving back between the individual functions we do throughout the year, which are what we call non-contact days, which are days whenever you're out of school, they don't have homework, they're not doing anything else, that you guys basically can't, the school can't do anything with them. So we're doing stuff with them to keep them active, keep them involved, keep them doing stuff. And that's the days that we target to do our functions on, so they're not disrupting their extracurricular lives that they may be having anyways, whether it's football, basketball, band, whatever it may be. You guys earn money for literally not doing a whole lot. And then we have the option of doing the school skate nights. Also, if you guys have any kind of fundraiser going on, if you need donations for like a door prize, we'll give you free passes to use as door prizes. The schools that do the school skate nights, we also offer to give away a free birthday party. We offer a free month of skating, and as Matt knows, we have a speed skating and a hockey program, which his son is involved with, and he's awesome at it. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but his son is an awesome skater. If you ever get the chance to see him, he's great. And we will offer to give that away for free as well, which is, it's an actual class. They meet twice a week. We teach them how to skate faster. We teach them how to play hockey. And then they get to come to every public skating session for free as well.
When do you teach them how to fall down?
Yes, we do need to teach them how to fall down a little bit better. But yeah, we have all the gear and everything for them, and teach them lots of stuff in that as well. We'll give that away for free. So I mean, between all those things, it's a lot. I mean, $89 for a birthday party. We value the free month of skating at $100. That class that I do, I only charge $35 for it, even though the value of it is actually probably somewhere around $200 per month of what they actually get. If you were doing it for karate, you'd be paying $350, $400 for that same thing if it was called karate instead of skating. But all those things we're willing to do for you guys. We love to do them, and anytime.
Real quick vouch for them. We do it every other month at McKinley from 6 to 8, and at 6:30 our meeting starts in one of the rooms. And we also do a fundraiser for our 5th grade trip. So we bring, if you're nice enough, let's bring our pizza and our water in. And pizza's $2, our water's $1, and it's money goes straight to our 5th grade graduation. So I really appreciate you letting us do that.
Yeah, and these are private functions, so you guys are welcome to bring in anything you want. You have any kind of extracurricular thing going on,
yeah,
you can put the funds toward whatever you want. It doesn't matter to us. We donate them to the school, so if you have a limit on fundraising, it's a donation to your school. So it's
great. And the money he gives us, we put into our 5th grade graduation. So it's really great to raise money, because it's hard to do that sometimes, but we really appreciate it. So.
Yeah, I love having you guys. Like I said, you guys are awesome.
And the kids, and I get actually a better turnout, because we do 12 o'clock once a month, meet for lunch. People that have to work come in for lunch break for our meetings once a month, and the next month it's 6 to 8, and so 6:30. So I get so I can get 1 month the parents that have to work and can't make it, but the next month the parents that do work can make it. So it's kind of a 50-50. So we try to make it even. And thanks to you, we get actually better turnout at Starscape than we do in our little library with like 5 of us.
That's what I like to hear.
So anyways, thank you.
Yeah, cool. That's exactly what I'm talking about. We actually have a function going right at this very minute. It's with Robin Hill, which I know is not exactly a normal school, even though they follow all of your rules. But they are actually at the rink right now, and they do something where if you don't need the funds for fundraising, they're actually we're giving them our hot dog special, which is a hot dog, a bag of chips, and a drink, so a meal for free instead of the money that they were raising. We give them a meal instead. So, and they're having a great turnout right now. So that's another option if you don't need the funds for some reason, or you're trying to encourage, you know, the lower end of your community or your school to, you know, come out and get a chance to have a meal. And also on any of these functions, teachers are free. And also, if you want to or you need to, if you have families in need, we will let them in for free. You can make your own free passes if you want to for your skate nights. We won't take them at public skating, but at your skate nights, you can even make your own free. You can make your own. Yeah, you can make your own free pass if you want to. If you have families in need, and just put McKinley skate night, you know, the date, and
I'll
just
see you Tuesday.
you know put a school stamp on or whatever, and they can come for free.
Okay.
If you have families that need that, I'm all for it. So. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah, you're welcome.
These are wonderful. Did everyone see?
Yeah,
their
look at them. They got a
packet?
free pass, and they're also free, guys. So make sure to snag that out.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks for sticking around and hearing all of our business.
No problem. I was in PTA for a while, so I got to go to quite a few meetings. I didn't ever make it to this one, but I was in it whenever.
Grab some pizza.
I would. Thank you very much.
All
sir.
right. All right, well, thank you for coming, Chris. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. With that, we shall press on. We have Rex Wall here from the district. He is the Director of Federal Programs for the Norman Public School District, and he's going to talk to us about what Title I is. Because we all know the phrase Title I schools, right? And some people think, oh, that means you're poor and you have free introduced lunches. But I think there's a whole lot more to that, and that's why we scheduled this program. And when Rex is done with his slideshow, we have Ariel, and it's Werchan?
Werchan. Yeah.
She is with the Cleveland County Health Department, or Norman Regional.
No longer. I am with Norman Regional, the TSET Healthy Living Program, serving Cleveland County. I'll explain what that means.
There you go. And I so want to have a citywide, district-wide walking school bus.
I'm here to help.
Let's do it. All right, with that, Rex, take it away.
What's a walking school?
You're going to find out.
Stick around.
Is that competition? As mentioned, my name is Rex Wall. I serve the district and the community as the Director of Federal Programs. And I'd just like to add my voice to Dr. Parsons and say that the work that you all do in your school communities is very important. And not only that, the time that you give up from being away from your families is also important. And I'd like you all to know that on behalf of the folks in the district, we really appreciate the work that you do. It's important to have that input. Tonight I'm going to try to not bore you to death with some federal stuff, and just to give you a little bit of background about myself. I've been in Norman for about 3.5 years, and almost 3.5 now, right? Before that, I worked for the State Department of Education in the Federal Programs Office there. But prior to that, I worked for the Department of Human Services. I used to be a social worker. And prior to that, I was a teacher. So, been around. What I'm going to tell you about tonight is just some general information about the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, and specifically Title I. If you all have, hopefully have some time at the end to answer some questions. If not, then I'd be more than happy to come back and give you more information if that's what you want. The first thing is that anybody know who this person is in the picture? Quiz time. You got it. Yeah. LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson. The Elementary and Secondary Education Act. In education, as you guys probably know, we like acronyms a lot. So you'll have ESEA, NCLB, that kind of stuff. So ESEA is is the original law. This law was signed into law by President Johnson in 1965 as part of his war on poverty. The federal government always has to have a war on something. So war on poverty is where it all started. This picture was taken in his hometown, and that lady next to him was his childhood teacher, his elementary school teacher. She was still teaching at the time, too. Amazing, isn't it? The picture was taken in Texas. He was the son of a tenant farmer, so he grew up in poverty. and he knew what it was for a family to struggle, and specifically, he became very aware that the difference between someone who starts off their life as poor and ends their life as poor and continues that kind of tradition into their children is education. He was a firm believer that a strong education was the way out of poverty. In fact, when he signed the law, he said, as the son of a tenant farmer, I know that education is only valid in its passport from poverty, the only valid passport. As a former teacher, and I hope a future one, I have great expectations of what this law will mean for all our young people. As President of the United States, I believe deeply no law has signed or will ever sign means more to the future of America. We have established the law, let us not delay in putting it to work. When he signed the law, that's a statement that he made. As you may or may not be aware of, the most recent iteration of the law was known as NCOB, or No Child Left Behind. And even more recently, a few weeks ago, we had a reauthorization event, and now we have the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA. So, a new acronym to without further ado, I'll do that. So, what is Title I Part A? And Title I is actually just part of this Title I Part A. You have all these federal programs, and the main gist of all of this stuff is so that people who are not privileged, and there's a lot of definitions of privilege, but specifically families who struggle in life, especially their children, should have access to a quality education. And not just a quality education, but an education that's going to prepare them for later in life where they have the ability to become gainfully employed or go on to higher education and those kinds of things. So we want the whole intent and purposes of all these federal programs and all these funding sources and streams is so that these children who don't grow up with parents who have 2 cars in the garage or don't struggle to check and that kind of thing. So these kids who face these kinds of challenges when they're growing up have the same access to a quality education as those more privileged peers that they grow up with. Just a little information about myself. When I was a child, there were times in my life where I lived out of a car. And so I know firsthand what it's like to struggle and being moved from school to school and not necessarily knowing what I'm going to be learning from one day to the next. And so I know how important it is for kids who come from these kinds of backgrounds that they have access to a quality education, and luckily here in Norman, they do. So it's one great thing. Improving academic achievement of the disadvantaged is what the title of the law is. Allocations of funds from the federal government are made to districts, and this is kind of based on a few sets of formula, and it gets real complicated. If you guys ever want to know, I'll be happy to bore you to death with it. But primarily districts of the size of Norman or bigger, a little bit smaller than Norman, receive our money through the state. It's federally funded, but the state is the middleman, and they allocate the funds to us. And the allocation comes on pretty much a per pupil basis, and they use poverty measurement that's derived from the Census Bureau. You hear a lot of, one thing that people get confused about is, if you know anything about Title I, is you hear a lot about who qualifies for free and reduced lunch. Anybody familiar with that? Okay. But really, we get our allocation, our allocation of funds from the federal government depending on the overall poverty of our community as a whole. Yes, ma'am.
So does the allocation change every 10 years in the census system?
No, and it changes every year.
Every year?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's your main census, but the Census Bureau doesn't just work every 10 years, they're working every day. So every year they update what they call the small area, I didn't write this down, so bear with me. It's called the small area school attendance formula, or SASA, and that's how they arrive at that. It's basically just it's a rough guesstimate of what poverty in the community is based on a number of factors. One of those being free and reduced lunch, another one being how many people are accessing social services and through the Department of Human Services and things like that. So they compile all this data, they put it all together every year, and then they update it. And so our formula that the money that we receive from the state changes every year because of that. And so we get the money from the state. And then we have our Title I served schools. Now, the law requires us to serve our schools a certain way. And that's generally by the free reduced lunch percentages of the schools. So that's where that comes into play. And so we receive the money from the state, and then we allocate the funds to the schools that we're serving, and we have to serve them in rank order. And what that means is that you serve the schools that have the highest percentage first, and then you go down. In Norman, we serve 15 schools, and I'll put them up here in just a second. We serve 15 schools with Title I funds. And it's a challenge for the community and for the schools to accept these funds and everything that is entailed with the acceptance of these funds, and provide the services that these students need. And that's where the district comes into play, and we provide the supports that these schools need to ensure that they're able to do their jobs. Not just something that we do with Title I schools, obviously we do with all the schools, except McKinley, because we don't have McKinley. Because I mean, they're off skating every day. Okay, so the use of the funds is supposed to be to support the learning opportunities and help especially low achieving children master core academic content. So you have your academic standards in every state. Currently they're developing the standards for Oklahoma, but eventually we'll have them all in place. And you have to, at a minimum, ensure that you're preparing students to meet those expectations created by those standards. That's the intent of Title I funds. So it's a support mechanism for these schools that have high amounts of poverty to ensure that those kids are receiving the same education as kids who are attending schools that are not as underprivileged. Right? So the kids at Kennedy, for example, have the same academic experience as the kids who are attending McKinley, for example, or Washington, or any other school. Right? So that's how the program works. You can use the funds for a number of things. Primarily, you're using them as a supplemental source of income to provide services to all the kids in the community, especially those low-achieving kids. So even though you're generating funds and you're allocating funds dependent upon poverty, you're really serving the kids in your school who are struggling. And those could be kids who are free reduced lunch or not. It doesn't, the whole intent there is that the kids at that school, because of the poverty of the school, has been targeted to ensure that they are successful. And whether those kids are low income or not, they get the help that they need. Here are the schools that we provide Title I funds to. The 15 that we provide services to in our community. Are any of you have children at these schools? Any of these schools? Great, fantastic.
So are high schools just better off, or like none of our high schools are on that?
Right. Good question. So keep in mind that we have to serve schools in rank order of poverty. Generally, for a number of reasons, high schools don't have as high a poverty as elementary schools for a number of reasons. One of those being that they're underreported. The kids just, kids may not want to participate in the lunch program, so they don't even turn in an application. They could be eligible, but I mean, from personal experience, I never ate lunch at school. Every time I went hungry because I was just too shy to go into the lunchroom, and it was a pride thing. And that kind of stuff happens, especially for teenagers. I mean, there's a lot of struggles going on. But so that's one of the reasons. Other reasons is that we have to serve in rank order, and it's on a per pupil basis. So larger schools get a larger chunk of change than smaller schools, but it's all proportionate to the percentage of the low income students in the school. So a per pupil amount might be $100 a kid. If a 300 student school is going to get more money than a 100 student school, just as a rough example. Now, how many schools go to a high school? 1,200 kids or something a year, right? So if you're serving 1,200 kids at $100, then that's reducing the pool that you have to provide services to every other school in your community. So while you can serve high schools, and there's no reason not to, you get better, and I hate using this term, but I'm having a Monday on a Tuesday. You get better bang for your buck by providing services to those elementary kids, so that you're providing them with the basis, right? You're providing them with these base services that will help them, the foundations of their education, providing them with the opportunity and the access to this quality education, and they'll get it throughout their academic career here in Norman. But they start in elementary school where they get these extra services so that by the time they get to middle school and high school, they hopefully don't need them as much because they've got that foundation in elementary school. They got all that extra help and all that extra attention so that by the time they go to high school, they're hopefully successful. That's the thought and the research that goes into this kind of. Norman's not alone as far as serving mainly elementary schools. You see that around the country and around the state. So it's a good question. To be eligible to be a Title I school, you have to have at least 35% free reduced lunch in your school. 35% of the kids at least. And there are two types of Title I schools. There's a targeted assistance school, and then there's a school-wide school. And to be school-wide, you have to be 40% more. So target assistance schools are, you can only serve, the only difference between the two is a target assistance school, you can only serve those kids who are your most struggling students. And you have to rank the students. You rank them and you're like, Johnny's number 1, Bill's number 2, Susie's number 3, and those kids are the ones getting the benefit of those funds. That's a targeted assistance school. School-wide school is you can use those Title I funds to benefit every kid in the school. Not just your most struggling students, but every student.
Do we have targeted schools in Norman?
No. In Norman, all of our schools, all the schools you see listed here are school-wide schools. That is the most flexibility that you can get out of your Title I dollars, so that you have the flexibility in the school level to provide whatever services that your particular school needs, because every school community has different needs.
I don't know what you guys have done, but at Reagan we've had school reading nights where we will, and it makes so much more sense now, that we'll use some of our Title I money for this reading night because it benefits every student in the school. Yeah.
So every school handles these things a little differently, and we'll get to that in just a second. So in Norman, well, just to give you an idea nationwide, 56,000 public schools benefit from Title I funds in the United States. That means 21 million children. Title I funds are going to benefit 21 million children in the United States. It's a lot of kids receiving support. Norman Public Schools has 15 schools, and that's about 8,000 kids in Norman. That's nearly half. Nearly half the kids in Norman are receiving the benefit of Title I funds. Their school is, at least. Now, not all of those kids, not every one of those kids is receiving a service that's funded through Title I. They're just attending a Title I school. So bear in mind that services are provided as needed. I talked about the two different types of Title I schools. So, like everything else, with Title I funds comes some strings. The federal government has certain expectations that schools are required to meet. One of these is that each school that receives Title I funds has to create a Title I plan. At your school, for example, you could walk in, at all the Title I schools in the district, you could walk into the office and ask to see their Title I plan as a community member, and they would have to produce it for you. If that's ever not the case, then let me know. So these plans are created, and this is a process that the district uses as a whole, primarily in every school, not just Title I. Just as we call it the school improvement process or site goal planning process. But it actually is leveraged quite easily into Title I, where they're doing an in-depth needs assessment. They're looking at their student level data. And that's something that in Norman the schools are very good about, is the leadership and the teachers in the schools always examine what the needs of their students are so that they can provide every single student with the services that they need to be successful. And that's the whole goal of the program, so it leverages quite nicely with Title I. The next thing is that all Title I schools have to have a school parent compact. As you enroll your kids in school, as part of that enrollment packet, you've probably seen one of these. Most schools you probably have to sign it. You may not remember it, but you've done it. The next thing is that every school has to have a parent involvement policy. So what they're going to be doing to provide, to pull the parents in and make them a part of their child's education. And as you mentioned before, some of these things you see like math nights and reading nights, these are all parts of that parent engagement policy. Right? The next thing is an inventory. So they buy a lot of stuff too. So it's not just hiring people to come in and be tutors and things like that, but they also buy a lot of stuff. There's luckily for Title I schools, they're able to get a lot more additional technology that maybe a non-Title I school may not have access to, and that's so that those students receive the benefit of additional services and hopefully an improvement. Okay, so what kind of funded activities can we see? Well, we already mentioned a couple that the parents are involved in: reading night, math night. Always like as far as parent involvement goes, one of the things I really like is something to do at Lakeview. They've got a Dr. Seussicle they do every year. It's a Dr. Seuss themed night. So every school has their own way of doing parent involvement. So parent involvement is one way that you can spend money, and it's a really recommended way to spend Title I money, because studies have shown repeatedly that parents who are engaged in their child's education result in a child who is more successful than a kid who doesn't benefit from that. So even though, for example, I grew up in a very poor household, generational poverty, my parents were always telling me from day one, we're reading this book together, we're doing all these things, and not only that, you're going to be successful in school, and I'm going to be on you every night to do your homework. That happened to me growing up. As a result, I graduated high school with a 3.85 GPA. A couple of AP classes and a scholarship. So that's the kind of stuff. I'm a first generation college student. So that's the kind of stuff that, parents who are engaged make a difference. And I'm a big believer in that, and a lot of people in our district are. So about 80, just to give you an idea, about 80% of all the Title I money that's spent in the district is going to personnel services. This is hiring people to come in and provide direct services to the kids. These are going to be your remedial specialists, the math and reading specialists who come in. These are people with a great number of years experience and a great deal of expertise in their field, coming in and working with the kids one-on-one, fighting with those targeted services that they really need. They're going to help boost them up. So math and reading. Another one is that we also spend quite a bit of money on instructional coaches in the district. These instructional coaches are people to ensure that one of the downsides of being a Title I school and having a high poverty level at a school sometimes means that you don't always get teachers who have been in the field for 20 years. You might see a lot of teacher turnover or have a great number of teachers who are new to the field. So these teachers need a lot of support. So to ensure that, what we do in Norman is pair them up with mentor teachers. We have the mentor network here in Norman for those teachers who are new to the field, and also provide them with access to instructional coaches who are on site, providing them with job-embedded instruction that doesn't interrupt their school day. It might be modeling lessons, for example, to the teachers so that they know what strategies work in the classroom. Something that's that can also be an issue in high poverty schools is student behavior. Luckily in Norman we don't face that a great deal, which is great. But it's something that teachers need a lot of support with. So instructional coaches also work on student behavior issues, how to address those in the classroom so that they're not as disruptive to the educational process as they could be. So those are some examples of what you can use funds for. You also use funds for I mentioned earlier, professional development. A number of our schools send teachers to professional training locally, and sometimes during the summer they might send them to a conference, for example, so that they can have the most up-to-date teaching methodologies available to them. So those are all things that Title I schools can have access to. And this is all, again, all dependent upon what their needs assessment determines, so what their needs are for their school. And that's all part of that goal planning process. That is a quick overview of Title I. I know it's a lot to take in all at once, so
Rex does a really good job of managing this program, and I want to give him credit for it, and
I'll give you that
encourage
20
you.
later.
But I think that the greatest strength of our Title I opportunities is this whole discussion we always have in the district about equity. How do you create equity and opportunity? And Title I gives us that vehicle. And so we talk about this. We've got a pretty diverse district. So you have the McKinleys maybe that have some of that support. Title I programs allow us to kind of create that balance. And I always try and remind schools that are Title I schools who talk about, well, I wish our PTA could raise this much money. There's a lot of services that Title I schools have available to them that McKinley doesn't. So those principals understand that there's advantages on both sides. But in the bottom line is this equity issue of creating this opportunity for an equal playing field for students. Title I gives us, but I will tell you the difference. When I came in 2000, our first budget of Title I that I looked at when I was here was about $800,000. And this is the demographic change in Norman. Our last budget was 2.5 million. Significant change, which has been really a real support for us as a district to be able to do a lot of things that we're doing that we couldn't have done without it. But it also indicates that our teachers and our staff are facing different kinds of challenges. And what I would credit our staff with, and our principals particularly, and those teachers, is that as our schools have demographically shifted, we still see some pretty positive academic outcomes in a lot of communities across the country. As socioeconomics play a bigger role in your school district, you usually see academics tend to slide in those communities, and we haven't seen that slide. And it really is the leadership of these guys and principals and teachers and the appropriate use of these kinds of funding mechanisms, and that's the resources that you have. So I just wanted to make sure you saw that as the big picture. It's the big piece of the district that has create that equity within the district is a vital piece to where we are today, especially if we look at these funding reductions we're going to be seeing in the next 6 to 8 months. Everybody wants to complain about the federal government. I will tell you this. I just love it. In the last 10 years, federal funding has been our most stable funding. Without Title I funding, without Title I funding and this community passing bond issues, we would be in a whole lot of trouble. And so just kind of keep those things in mind as we look to the next year.
Thank you for that, Dr. Serrano. And I'll build on that. I made a note. Make sure that you've contacted your school if you're a Title I school, which I think most of us are, and sit down and ask to review this plan. Ask them, how can our PTA partner with you? What events can we have? As a council, I'd love to see a district-wide reading challenge, maybe just the elementary schools, where we all get together and who can read the most, and we use Title I money to help encourage it and get people involved. It could involve a parent training session on what they can do to encourage participation. Something like that. I mean, this is a partnership that I don't think we're all tapping into. I didn't know enough about it, and the only reason that I knew that PTA was partnering with our Title I at Reagan was because they told me. Don't miss that opportunity to build on those learning funding as well. So make sure you look into that. But Rex, that was awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. That was exactly what I was looking for. Does anyone else have any questions for Rex? All right. Well, with that, we will change directions a bit. Ariel, here she comes. Okay. Do you need help bringing anything up?
I've got it.
Okay. So Ariel found me. I was pretty excited about it. It's another way I know council's becoming a little bit more legitimate. People seek me out now. And I was glad that she did. She had a lot of great information, and just like how your PTA can benefit from learning more about Title I and partnering with that, Ariel's got a lot of great information, and I am super excited about it.
Thank you. Can I stand back here and speak? Is
Sure.
that okay?
We would prefer that you stand up there, though.
Oh, wait,
We're
yeah.
streaming live.
Oh, okay.
Although nobody's watching right now.
Okay. I'll try to work my way up there. I have some stress balls. Oh, made out of fruits and vegetables.
I love it. Oh yeah, it's stressful. I didn't even know what my day was.
You're welcome.
Did you see my Facebook post? When my first week.
Don't forget we're streaming.
I'm hungry.
I don't know what I would do without it. They stopped me.
Have some stress balls?
I want you to keep your job.
Yeah? You got computers.
I love there's like many to choose from.
Yeah, this whole bag is all different. If everyone wants to hold up what they have so everyone can see the different ones that we have, fruits and vegetables.
Everyone has a different one?
Peas,
That's awesome.
apricots,
Avocados.
all kinds of stuff.
I'm so
Okay,
easily
and I'm also
entertained.
going to give this to you, and you can decide how you want to
Sure.
distribute these. This is a color sheet, an activity sheet. If you guys have access to print these, you may do so at your convenience. And just to show you some other things I have, jump ropes in bright colors, and my favorite, sunglasses. And I'll kind of explain what these are and why we have them. These pencils, as the kids hold them, they change colors. So this one's green and light green, I believe. I think the red might go to orange. A few more things for y'all. This is paper, it's not as fun.
Or I can help.
Okay, great. And I'm also going to pass around a sign-in sheet if I can get everyone's signature here so I know who you guys are. And then at the end, when I'm done kind of presenting, there's another sign-in sheet that I'm going to pass around, and you may sign this, or if you know someone who would be beneficial to what we do, I would have you put their name and information on it so I can contact them. Okay, so my name is Ariel Werchan, and I work for what I said earlier, the really long acronym, the TSET Healthy Living Program, serving Cleveland County. Has anyone seen 1-800-QUIT-NOW stuff? Shape your future, eat more, eat better, move more, be tobacco free. Fill your plates, half fruits and vegetables. That is all TSET. So TSET stands for the Tobacco Settlement and Endowment Trust, and I think it's really important that I give you a little bit of information on who our funder is. I do work for a grant. Who they are, how they came about, it really helps you to understand my work and why it's so important that I do what I do. So back around, I believe it was 1996, tobacco companies were sued for their products being marketed to kids and for the health disparities that they were causing to Oklahomans. And prior to being sued, let me just tell you that the tobacco companies have never lost a settlement, they've never settled on a lawsuit, nothing. And Oklahoma, along with 46 other states, went after the tobacco companies, and the tobacco companies finally settled. And so Oklahoma, along with 46 other states, was receiving funds for as long as tobacco products are being sold. Now, Oklahoma was the only state who put their funds into a trust. So they now use this money to work to improve the health of Oklahomans. And what's really unique about this is they put it up to Oklahoma voters to decide what we're going to do with the money that was coming in. And Oklahoma said, well, let's use it for which, the lawsuit was intended for. So let's try to reduce smoking rates among Oklahomans. And I believe on the back of the yellow sheet, I have some stats about some of our smoking rates and some of the effects that this program has had. The quit line, the 1-800-QUIT-NOW, That was the first program and the major program that was launched by the TSET money, Tobacco Settlement Endowment Trust, and they have had 175,000 callers call in to the quit line since it's been established. And since the quit line has been established, we also, for the first time ever, are no longer in the bottom 10 for smoking rates among Oklahomans. So we have finally come out of the 40s. We're 39th, which still have lots of room to go, but we're no longer in the 40s. So we're doing really, really great work with this funds and with the programs that we have. And so TSET decided, since we're having such success with tobacco control, let's focus on the major health issues in Oklahoma, which is cardiovascular disease, heart disease. And so they want to prevent obesity by increasing nutrition and increasing physical activity among our Oklahomans. So, in comes a new grant, the Healthy Living Program, funded by TSET. It's a 5-year grant, and we just started in June. So, very beginning of the grant, and they have broken it up into 4 different sectors. So we have a business sector, and then we have a community sector, and we have a cities and government sector, and the school sector. So I am the school sector coordinator for the TSET Healthy Living Program serving Cleveland County. We got it? Okay, it's a lot. So what I do is I'm working with all the schools in Cleveland County to look at some of the things that we're doing in our schools. What foods are we serving? Are we offering recess before lunch? What kinds of fundraisers are going on in our schools? Are we selling a ton of candy, or are we doing other fundraisers that might promote health? So what I do, there's a list of things right here, are some things that I do for the schools. A lot of it is basically serving as a resource for you. We want to look at your wellness policies. We want to look at your smoking rates at your schools. We want to know if you allow e-cigarettes, if the high school kids, if they're allowed to have vapors on their campuses, which they're not supposed to. And we want to make sure that you have really, really strong language in your policy. We want to look again at your wellness policy and see some of the things that you guys are doing, and we want to come and provide a resource for you guys to help increase some of the things that you're doing in your school. So that's basically what we're here to do. And we're just seeking partnerships with some of those schools. And right now I'm working with Lilacs. I'm working with Moore, and I would love to work with Norman and surrounding schools. It's not something that we would have to do right away. Again, it's a 5-year grant, so I have lots of time to get to know you guys, get to know your schools, get to know what you're doing in your schools, and see how we can move forward. So that's my kind of intro speech. Does anyone have any questions about our program and what we do?
So you mentioned when you and I had spoken that
Yes.
some of these benefits you don't get unless there's a formal partnership with the
Correct.
How do you establish this partnership?
Sure. So when you tell me, Ariel, I want to partner with you, what do I need to do? I'm just going to be 100% open and honest to tell you exactly what the process is. I would sit down with you guys, and we would do 3 different assessments. The first assessment is basically a questionnaire. The first 3 assessments are questionnaires, and it's asking you, I think there's like 45 questions about nutrition in your schools. And so we'll go through, we'll discuss some of those questions, see what you're doing, see what you're not doing, see what's in policy, what are you practicing, what's just in words, what you're not practicing. And then we do the exact same thing for tobacco. So we see what your tobacco rules are for your campus. And then we do the same thing for physical activity. Are your kids getting recess every single day? Do you tell your kids, well, if you're not being good in the classroom, then you don't get to go to recess today? Are you offering suckers as an incentive for good behavior? We want to see kind of what you're doing in your school. And then we want to take your wellness policy and we want to see, of all these things that you said you were or weren't doing, where can we improve? What do you guys want to do to improve in your schools? So we're not here to come and tell you, well, you guys need to have recess before lunch. You need to make sure they're having recess for 25 minutes every single day. That's not what we're here for. We're here to tell you, these are some great things that you can do. Here's how you can do them. What do you guys think? Can you do it? So once you decide that you want to partner with us, we go through those assessments. And then we work with you guys over the next 5 years. We'll put you in our official work plans. We're going to tell TSET, hey, Norman wants to work with us. We're going to work with them. We're going to meet, and we're going to try to strengthen your wellness policies.
So should the partnership come from the PTA or the principal? Or
we like to have partnership with the actual school and with different members of the school. So we want PTA members available when we do some of these assessments. And we also want to have our principals there. We want to have our teachers there. We want to have janitorial staff there. We want to have our nursing staff there. We want to have everyone that we can. We want to have parents there. We want to have student involvement there. Student voices are huge. We want to have everyone at the table, as many people that we can, to get together. That's how changes are going to be made. Changes aren't going to be made for 2 or 3 people who support an idea. Changes are going to be made from a variety of people who come together, who all agree and support these types of behaviors.
So a couple thoughts on this. I've been chewing on this for a while.
Yeah, and we had a good hour discussion,
Yeah.
just me and you talking. So
We talked about earlier how it's hard to get parent volunteers, and so you're like, great, I need to find volunteers for one more committee. If you think about it, this may bring in parents that have wanted to be involved in PTA, but that's not their thing. You know, I'm not into PTA. Oh wait, there's a wellness committee. Maybe it's that super fit parent who runs marathons or something. And so that may be a way to get parents involved in that aspect, to give them a role on this committee. But Dr. Parsons, does this seem like something principals, I mean, I know you can't speak for every principal, but would be willing to take on? Because obviously it can't start unless there's that initial conversation with the principal.
It would certainly be something that I was unaware of, but now I have greater interest in. So I appreciate the information.
Yes, ma'am.
And yes, it would be something I think that could be brought to schools.
Do you think a good way to start would be if I asked Dr. Sayano if I could speak at a principal's meeting, just bring Ariel, speak briefly about it, and say we've had interest?
That's typically the way a lot of programs are brought to us as a group. I would say that probably you do need the principal's
100%.
participation and buy-in on this, so that would be a great starting point.
Yes. And just a little bit of background and information on me. I think it's really important to know. My sister is a teacher. My mother is a teacher. My fiance is a teacher. My dad is a principal. My brother-in-law is a principal. And I taught pre-K at Lakeview last year or 2 years ago. And I also taught 8th grade science at McLeod 4 years ago. So I know education. I know what you guys have to do. I know as teachers all of the funded and unfunded mandates that the school has to have. And we're here to help you to achieve some of those mandates that you already have to do. A lot of the things that I said, talking about, the tobacco policies, you have to have those. So we're here to make that process easier for you. Because you're not getting money for having a tobacco policy, but you have to have it. So we're here to make those kinds of things easy for you. And there are some things that, as a teacher, I know sometimes it's really, really hard to tell a student who his one thing that he wants to do is go play, but he is a disruption in the classroom. I know it's really, really hard to say, that's the only thing I can do to keep this kid from behaving in the classroom is to threaten him with taking his recess away. It's hard, because that's the one thing that will work. But we want to look at other options and other things that can work instead of taking away that physical activity, because they need that. So as a teacher, I understand the struggles of people coming in here and saying, well, you need to do this, 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 and this, and this, when your full focus is testing. But we know that healthy kids learn better. We know that. So our whole objective in this is we want to make the healthy choice the easy choice. We don't want this to be difficult for you. We want it to be easy. We want to teach teachers how to incorporate a quick 5 or 10 minute stretch break to get get your brain starting to work again, and so the kids can focus more. So that's what we're here to do. We don't want this to be any more difficult on your teachers or in your schools than it has to be. We want it to be easy for you.
So I'm feeling like the next step as a council would be for me to do what I had talked about and ask Dr. Sayano if I can speak to a principal's meeting. And so once they're aware of what it is, then ask you as presidents of the units to approach the principal and say, you saw the presentation, is this something you're willing to take on? Because I don't want any of you to waste any more time recruiting volunteers for something we can't make work. So if we have the school buy-in, though, I think it could be more successful than if we just created it. You've seen the list of resources that we have. It's a win-win situation. So I think if everyone, I'm winging this as well, but if everyone's okay with that, I'll talk to Dr. Sayano about that at our next meeting. But I know we are staying late, but this is very helpful and awesome. But will you tell everyone about the walking?
I will. Yes. So a walking school bus is basically a way for kids to walk to school. Pryor Creek has a really, really great walking school bus, and if memory serves me correctly, the way that they operate it is their high school students actually lead the walking school bus. And I believe it's the first Wednesday of the month. And so you have your high school football players, high school athletes, you have your band members, you have anyone that's involved in a certain club in high school, they get together and there's certain points where the kids go and meet at. And so all of the kids who are assigned to that point will go to that point and they'll check in, and then they have a route that they walk to school. For some places, like Little Axe, it's way out there. There is right off Highway 9. There's families who live 20 miles away. It's really hard to make that possible. You would designate a point where kids come and meet close to the school, and then they would walk to school. So basically, a walking school bus is your kids walking to school one day out of the year, one time a month out of the year. It's however you guys want to do it, twice a year. It doesn't matter. It's totally up to you how you want to work it. And it doesn't have to be your high school kids who come and are involved in it. It could be your parents. But you definitely get
watchdogs.
You definitely get your police station involved. You want to, safety is first. You get the cones out. You make sure that that is a priority. And you can do it however you want. You make it your own. But a walking school bus is the kids walking to school on a set day.
I feel like it's our schools that are on the outskirts that are gonna have the harder time. Like I can't imagine walking from Royal Oaks, where I live, to Washington, or some Roosevelt schools walking all, or Truman's huge too on that side of town. But schools like McKinley or Jackson or Reagan,
Jackson's in Gold.
What?
Jackson is in Gold.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right.
I will say, Wilson Elementary, there is no bus route. It's a neighborhood school, and there's no buses
Right.
go to unless
Right.
it's special education or
Right.
something. And I actually proposed that to a teacher last year.
Mhm.
But it's not off the ground, but she really
Sure.
liked that.
Yeah.
And I thought that would be a great.
And in Pryor Creek, when they
Great
started
school.
it, I think they had like total 15 kids that were doing it. And by the end of the year, they had like 500 students that were participating in the walking school bus.
Well, and the great thing about Norman is our middle schools and our high schools start after our elementary schools. So if we're looking for
that's
community service
excellent.
hours
Yes.
for our involved students, it's a great way to do it.
Yes.
So, and I love having younger kids work with older kids because, you just idolize the older kids. And when you see involved older kids, it's a cycle.
It is.
So.
Yeah. I am also a high school cheerleading coach, so I love seeing, my older girls getting involved in our community and doing things like that, and so do their parents.
Another great benefit of being in Norman is we have an entire university of people who are looking for community service hours and athletes. I just met with the director of community relations today with a lip sync battle. I'm not going to tell you what I've got up my sleeve, but it's pretty awesome. So, I think there's no reason we can't make it happen. Besides where schools are located, that I can't help. But
Sure.
so I think that's another district-wide thing that the council could help coordinate, which would just build relationships. I'm really excited about it. So I hope you brought some cards.
I did.
Okay.
And my number is also on the yellow sheet. Number and email. But I do have cards if you would like one. I'll just leave them over here, so you don't feel obligated to take one. I also, like I said, want to pass around the second form. Again, this is for anyone that you might know, a teacher, a custodian, a nurse, another parent, anyone that you think might be interested in learning more about what we do. Can you put their name down, and I can kind of go from there. I'll start that on this side. I brought these two. We, with a partnership, these are some things that your school would get. Breathe Easy decals, and we're the group that has the big metal no tobacco signs that we provide to the schools. So.
Do you guys do that radio bit, the whole kickball, volleyball? It gets stuck in my head.
No. That might be a Shape Your Future
That's
campaign.
probably
And Shape Your Future is the whole eat more, move more, eat better, move more, be tobacco rails. Forget that first one.
Well, and I will mention that National PTA is really going into healthy lifestyles as well. They did a bunch of grants that Reagan won.
Reagan School for Healthy Lifestyle, right? Is that the right one?
The
Schools for Healthy Lifestyles,
yeah,
right? Yes,
we won
that's
that,
a great
and
one.
she's actually going to be at either Zumba night or the cooking night to give more information.
Yes, yeah, just let me know which
So.
one. And did you get our logo in my membership form?
Yeah, it
Okay,
should
good.
be up. It should be under, if you check our Facebook page, under the business partner albums. Yeah, it's great. So, and from now on, you should be on our newsletter list where you send me information, I can get it in the newsletter.
Perfect.
So, all right. Well, has anyone got any questions for Ariel? All right. Well, thank you, Ariel.
welcome.
I
Thank you
appreciate
for
it. We'll be
having
in
me.
touch. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
So I have a few announcements before we close for the evening. Registration for the lip sync battle is still open. It closes on the 15th. Take these with you, hang them at your schools. I want people coming and performing. It's $5 individual and $10 for an entire family to come watch. If you know teachers that would be super involved, or principals that would perform, that would be a huge draw to get families out. 100% of the proceeds go towards Earth Rebirth and their goal in putting a community garden at every school. I know that Irving's got one, Reagan's got one, Jackson's working on one, Norman High's got the amazing one.
And we help with that too.
See, it's the directions of the future. But this is going to be super fun. We need acts, but we need people to come, and we are asking every unit to provide a gift basket that will simply be silent auctioned off during intermission. All right, so I'd love you to provide an act, or at the very least, I mean, it could be, I don't know, there are no requirements for the baskets besides you provide one and help us raise funds for this event. Andy Alligator, who signed on as event sponsors, they'll have a little table out. You guys want that too. Yeah, those are called a bowling center. And so it'll be a fun night. It should end between 8 and 9, so it won't be super late. It's cold outside. There's not a lot to do, family fun-wise. Come to this, all right? And I also want to mention the events on our Facebook page, and I said it in my email last night. We have over 3,000 PTA members in Norman, and I have 715 likes on the council page. What's up with that? All right, so share it with your units. Please have them like it, because I do post meetings. I do post stuff like this. I posted something about the Mardi Gras parade. Like, I try to make it Norman-oriented as well. Reminders about how we didn't have school on Monday, things like that. So please encourage your parents to reach out and like the page. And last thing, membership continues. Remember, you're always supposed to continue building your membership, and the next reporting date, I think, is July 31. In the unit, did I say July? Mid-January. The other J month, one of the J months. January 31, and the unit with the highest increase in membership from the October reporting date to the January reporting date gets the iPad mini. And you can do whatever you want with that. So, come grab some free stuff. Will you give me the raffle thing? Oh, thank you, Ariel. I was talking to Rex, but you're very helpful. All right, we have raffles for $15 to the University One store and $10 to the Sooner Legend. All right, for the one store, David. Just says David. You're the only David here. You win that. All right, for the Sooner Legends, Ashley. It's you.
I can't be seen in there.
Yeah, you're the other legend.
That was rigged.
All right. With that, I will adjourn. Thank you for sticking it out tonight, guys. 7:47. I will send out more information on our February meeting soon. First Tuesday of every month.